Hello, everyone. I'm Becca, dietitian by trade, mom 24/7, wife from the start, and when there's a few extra hours in the day, you might find me hitting the trails or on horseback.
And I'm Kara, a therapist to women, a mom to a boy, an entrepreneur, mountain junkie, and a postpartum runner.
And this is Fit for a Queen, a podcast that's devoted to the female athlete wanting to balance the teeter-totter of all the things we desire out of life as women. Performance, health, intellect, and taking time for self, even if we only get 1 minute out of the day.
We're so excited to be bringing you the queens in the athletic world who have done just that. Okay, ladies, take a seat at your thrones, grab your crowns, and welcome to Fit for a Queen.
All right. AJ Mendez is a New York Times best-selling author, former wrestling champion. AJ Mendez is the New York Times best-selling author of Crazy is My Superpower: How I Triumph by Breaking Bones, Breaking Hearts, and Breaking the Rules. She is a mental health advocate and animal rights activist, currently servicing NAMI, the JED Foundation, the ASPCA, and Girls Make Games. A former professional wrestler with the WWE under the ring name AJ Lee, she has won 3 championships and numerous awards, as well as inspired a generation of youth into several video game characters and action figures. All with substantially exaggerated body measurements. In her spare time, she enjoys comic books, video games, and internet videos of unusual animal friendships. She is currently working on Turn Crazy is My Superpower into a TV series, which she will write and executive produce. Be sure to follow AJ on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll put that too in our show notes. Well, welcome, AJ.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't know it was turning into...
Thank you for reading my ridiculous bio.
No, it's not ridiculous. I didn't know the book is turning into a TV series. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. It's one of the really cool, unexpected, but forced into fruition by my mind things that have come from writing the book. We're developing it, so it's a very long process. But I have these amazing producers that they've produced Genius. It's on Nat Geo, and they're Emmy nominated, and they're very legit and supportive, and they get the vision. And we're so excited to try to bring this story of mental health to the screen.
Wow,
very
absolutely.
accurate, respectful depiction.
Yes. Oh, we need that so much, and we're looking forward to seeing it when it gets out there. So keep us updated for sure.
And we need more women superheroes. We've got a few. We need more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really, we want to do something that is, I think, when we talk about mental health and we talk about depression and anxiety, it's always in this kind of salacious, exaggerated way, and it's only the bad stuff, and almost when it's too late. And I'm just we're really passionate about telling a story that's what's the everyday, what happens when you wake up and you feel bad, what happens when you're way too happy because of a manic episode, what are just the little in-betweens of living with a mental health disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a story I've never seen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Incredible. Yeah.
And there's been many times where I'm like, okay, a movie's coming out or a show is coming out, and we get excited about it because it is talking about eating disorders in our world. Or there's been a movie out about postpartum depression, which is sort of my world. And then it comes out and you're like, oh, did no one talk to someone with this issue? Because it ends up disappointing and, again, kind of leading into those stereotypes of mental illness that we don't need more of.
Right, and that's why it's so important to consult with people who are professionals. And I'm so happy to have this relationship with amazing mental health organizations like NAMI and the JED Foundation that they'll be able to keep us in check, and let us know when we're being, keep us responsible in our messaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll be sure to push it on social media when it's released so that everybody can know about it. So can you tell us about how you got started the WWE?
Yeah, I was a really stubborn child, and I was 12 years old, and was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I told my mom when I was 12, I was just this huge fan of this fantastical, larger than life world where, it was basically real life video game characters, it was real life superheroes, spandex outfits and all. And I just was so in love with it. And growing up, it just, I had so many situations around me that made me feel so weak. But I would sit in front of the TV, and for these 2 hours watching the show, I could see women be strong. And it kind of inspired me to just become one of those, ridiculous, beautiful characters. And I kind of just set my mind on it. And I started wrestling when I was about 19. And a couple years after, just doing like the independent circuit, which is, very much just wrestling in bingo halls and getting paid, $20 a night if you were lucky. I auditioned for WWE, and I paid to audition for WWE.
Oh, wow.
And it was like an open casting call. It was like, well, if you give us thousands of dollars, you can maybe have a shot, And I just saved my money for like a year and a half and starved and, actually got signed at this crazy camp. And then I was there for a really long time, and I loved it.
That's awesome. What was some of your like role models or wrestlers growing up that you watched and liked?
The first woman in wrestling that I really connected to is Miss Elizabeth, which looking back now, like I said, completely not my personality. Like I'm not like the quiet, sweet, supportive woman. I'm kind of a battle axe. So I don't know why I connected to her, but she was just so delicate and lovely in this world of giants and monsters and big burly men, and I loved that dichotomy. So she was really the first one that like caught my eye. And then as I got older, I was just so in love with like Lita and Trish Stratus and Molly Holly and Jazz and these women that Ivory, these women that China, oh my gosh, they really flipped the script. They said they brought in this technical wrestling along with they were all like Amazons and models and just so talented, all mixed into one. And I was none of those things, so I don't know how I like had the nerve to think I could do that. But I figured, hey, I haven't seen me, and so I'll make that space for myself.
Yes, you're right. As young girls, we don't have a whole lot of situations in which women are looked at as strong and powerful. They may be athletic and they may be revered as beautiful, but there's not a whole lot that would focus on that.
Right. I think it's interesting too, because when you look back, like you only know what you're surrounded by. So I didn't realize that like, there's these categories of women. I didn't realize it was like you're either an Amazon or you're a supermodel. Like I didn't know that was like wrong at the time. Like there's so much in between, I just thought, okay, I've got to figure out how to fit into one of these categories or try to make my own.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to be what you cannot see. And that slowly, without me realizing, like kind of became my mission statement was, okay, let me be that thing that isn't out there. Let me represent myself and maybe help the next generation.
Yeah. Well, sort of kind of your other mission statement too. What inspired you to share your story and become such a mental health advocate?
It's interesting. I feel at times like it almost happened by accident. I knew that for so long I very much I kept my cards close to my chest, and I didn't share any of my story or any sort of vulnerabilities with anyone. I was just a very, very private person, and I knew that when these things were happening in my life, and I was struggling with my own mental health, and there were struggles in my family, to me, I just thought, okay, this is happening so I can learn a lesson and pass on this lesson one day. And so like I always knew that I wanted to write a book, but I didn't think it would be so vulnerable. And when I started the process of writing the book, I just realized that, okay, I spent, at the time, I think I was like 28 when I was writing the book. I spent 28 years kind of in silence and in hiding in plain sight. And I needed to just be honest, and sometimes keeping your secrets to yourself can be a selfish thing, because sharing your struggles with the world can make a lot of people feel less alone. So it was terrifying because I am such a painfully private person. But just the process of writing and taking these burdens off of myself and putting them out into the world, it just felt like what I needed to do. It felt like the right thing to do. And from there, just like sharing my story, we just felt it was important to be responsible with messaging. And that's how I got in touch with these amazing mental health organizations, NAMI and the JED Foundation, most recently the Child Mind Institute. And it's just, I kind of just wanted a group of people to keep me on track, to let me know how I could help them. And it's been one of the most profound, important things I've ever done with my life.
Yeah. It takes such vulnerability and sharing your story. What feedback have you gotten for kind of putting yourself out there and telling that part of your story and your journey?
What's crazy is that you always feel, you're always kind of this little kid inside that feels like if you show people your truth, they're going to reject you. And I think that's why we kind of, we keep ourselves, protected in that way. And that was kind of my biggest worry. I remember before the book came out, I decided to write like a blog, almost just like coming out as bipolar blog, and saying, okay, this is what the book's going to be about. Like, get ready for that. And I honestly got my first gray hair the week that blog was coming out. I was so stressed. And I just couldn't handle it. And I just was so afraid. And it was like a TV show, like how supportive people were, and how not only supportive, like, I had like the beautiful support of my fan base who were like, oh, it just makes sense now. This is why I felt connected to you. And I've had issues like that as well. And that was so incredibly profound and made me feel like it was worth all of that fear. And it was so the right decision. And I also had people that were close to me say, people I've been friends with for a really long time, said they had family members that had dealt with depression or bipolar disorder or anxiety, or they themselves had dealt with it. And it was like, why haven't we been having this conversation? I've known you for years. Like, I can't believe we don't tell each other these things. But it really taught me the valuable lesson that once one person speaks up, it can start a conversation.
Right. Yeah, we've had a couple people on here that have had similar sayings to that, where like secrets breed in the dark, and how they almost found it therapeutic for themselves to share their story and kind of get it off their chest and help others. So thank you so much, especially for bipolar, because there's a lot of stigma and lack of education. And I think having somebody out there that's willing to share it, and especially put it in a TV show, is going to do wonders. And we thank you for that, being mental health clinicians.
Yeah, and doing that in a responsible way, for sure.
I appreciate that so much. It really is. It is a way to free yourself. And I wouldn't tell everyone that's suffering, like, hey, just like come out and talk about it, tweet about it, because some people, it's a journey. They have to get there, and it takes time. But I will say that, like, when you can get there and you're able to share it with people you care about, and be open and accepting of it, you free yourself from carrying that burden alone. And it makes everything, it makes the struggle so much easier when you're open about it. And it's just very important for me to show that, especially bipolar disorder, it is manageable, and it is, and in a way, it's been a gift for me in so many ways.
Well, we can tell that you have a big, big heart, and it sounds like it's also been used for animal adoption and furry rescue. So I love hearing about this because we have a house full of furry rescue animals. So tell us how you got into that.
Oh. Oh my God, I love it. Do you have a zoo?
We have a cat, a dog, and our previous 2 dogs for furry rescues.
And we've got a house full of pit bulls that we've rescued that we love so much. So
oh my God.
Yeah, those are our.
Oh my God, I'm in love with you. Pit bulls are amazing.
Oh, we've had such a great experience with one in particular who was rescued from like a fighting farm. She's just turned into our little therapy dog. So, yeah, it's a great thing.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, tell us more.
Wow, I love that. So, well, it's very similar to my story. We, when I was younger, even though we did not have the resources to even like take care of, even like feed ourselves or house ourselves, my parents would take in pit bulls, and we just like roam around the neighborhood. You know, we lived in these neighborhoods where people would breed them for fighting rings, and there would always just be this excess. And so my family would foster these pits and foster them for a while and then adopt them out. And so we were like this kind of makeshift foster organization, like unofficial foster organization. And we fell in love with one in particular who was a little puppy, who was like, you know, going to be this like stud of this fighting ring. And I tell a story in my book about how, you know, my dad was like, I'll give you $50 for this dog, and basically to save this dog's life. And he was the love of my life. Just the most sweet, gentle angel dog. And it just really showed me how misunderstood these animals are and how dangerous stereotypes can be. And it really broke my heart. And so we got several pit bulls over our you know, like together as a family. And when I lived on my own, I began rescuing on my own, and I've had 3 different rescues. And now I have me and my husband share a little wolf boy chupacabra rescue. And it's just been, it's the most like satisfying. It makes you feel like you are on this earth for some reason, you know, to save this life and to give it. I heard this quote recently, and it just made me burst into tears. And it was, you know, dogs are the small part of our life, but we are their entire life. You know, they have such shorter lifespans. We are all of it. Yes,
that's so true.
It kills me. And you know, what else? What more beautiful thing can you do but give, you know, this 10 to 15 years of your time to give this animal a beautiful, happy, safe life?
And I think, you know, you talk about those stereotypes. I think with those animals, it puts us in that place of being more compassionate to what they've gone through and their background, and how, you know, if you were to see that dog on the street, you'd be like, oh, look at that mean dog that's digging in the trash. Well, little did you know it got dumped and it's been abused. I mean, it makes you really start to also second guess how you look and judge at people.
Yeah, definitely. I think I always like over-identify with rescues, which might be why I'm definitely drawn to them. You know, like I myself like lived on this street, and I myself was just like a stray trying to find a home, and just the thought that you can give just a little bit of your life makes such an impact on their life. It's kind of everything to me, and I wish more people would kind of broaden their horizons and realize that like there are not breeds that are bad. There are people that are bad at raising those breeds.
Exactly.
And pit bulls are just pit bulls are sweet, soulful, like little loving angels. And I wish more people would recognize that.
Yeah, they are loyal lovers. They are. Yeah.
They are.
Well, thank you so much for doing that too. Again, Becca and I are obviously both animal lovers, so we appreciate
Probably too much. I said if
yeah.
my husband wasn't in the picture, my daughter and I'd have a whole house full.
Well, thank you guys for rescuing all those animals. Like, I love that. It warms my heart. My dream one day is to like have so many that like I'm tripping over them. Like that's how I want to retire.
Yeah. Well, on another note, congrats on your amazing book. And I know we talked about the TV series. We want to hear all about it. What made you write the book? And tell us a little bit about more what you have in there.
Well, I spent like about a decade of my life in professional wrestling, and there is very much a time limit on like how long you can abuse your body. And so when I knew that, you know, there was going to be a next chapter of my life, I really, like all pun intended, I really felt like I needed to start this fresh new chapter. And I couldn't do that if I didn't put my deepest, darkest secrets out into the world. If I couldn't release that. For so long, I had kind of just held this pain inside, and I had said, you know, like, this is just making me tougher and it's making me stronger. And, you know, one day I'll share it somehow. But when I knew this wrestling chapter was closing, it just felt like the perfect time to kind of release that pain and release that baggage. And I felt a responsibility having young fans listening to what I was saying, to following me on social media, supporting me. When you have those like minds kind of waiting to see what you're going to say, like you better say something worthwhile, and then just be responsible. And so for me, I thought, well, what can I do for this next stage of my life? Like I can tell people my story. I can share the lessons I've learned. I can tell people that, you know, like not only have you thought I've been this like outsider, quirky underdog this whole time, like I've been struggling with my mental health, and now I've survived and thrived with my mental health disorder. And so I just really wanted to help, even if mental health disorders are not somebody's personal battle. I think that there's so much they can take from my experiences with it for their own personal battles. My goal is just to like help people feel less alone, and that was the best way for me to do it. So my memoir is very much my life story. It's about growing up, you know, extremely poor and being homeless and finding solace in comic books and video games and pro wrestling, and finding a way to make that a reality to get me out of homelessness and poverty.
Well,
I really like that. That was just that part of your life kind of rescued you in a way.
Definitely. It's you know, I say you have to like become your own superhero. You don't have to wait for one, you know. And that's very much the messaging of my book and what I wanted to share with those young girls that for some reason like how I dress and are listening to me.
And they could get your book on your website, correct?
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
It is on Barnes & Noble, and my website is ajmendez.com, and we have the links for everywhere that you can purchase it on there.
Great. So AJ, we'd love to always end each interview asking how you live out the Phit philosophy. So how do you balance the time for performance, health, intellect, and taking time for self?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. How do you live out the Phit philosophy, which is how you balance performance, health, intellect, and taking time for self?
Oh, that is so incredibly important to me. I feel like fitness and self-care are part of my therapy process. Like, they are crucial elements to my own personal therapy. Those are things I can control. I don't have to wait for an appointment. I don't have to, to feel reliant on anything. Fitness and the way I take care of myself makes me feel capable. And I think that's the key to kind of conquering anxiety and depression, is feeling like you are capable of being strong, and you have control. That's something that just gives me such peace of mind. And if I'm having a bad day, I know I can, jump on the treadmill or lift some weights, and I can make myself feel strong and confident, and accomplished. So I would say that's one of the most crucial parts of my recovery and my survival.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, AJ, we'll be sure to put all those links, and we'll have to have like a watch party when the show comes out.
Yeah, Phit watch
wine
party.
and popcorn.
Okay. I'll be there.
And we're so thankful for your time today, and I hope you enjoy your time with your friend in LA.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, likewise.
Thanks, AJ, for being such an advocate on so many important issues. So we appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
All
right, have a good one.
All right, ladies, I appreciate it.
Bye, Queens.
Thank you to our sponsor today, Sentimano Counseling. Sentimano Counseling is the premier perinatal mental health practice in Kansas City, treating mood disorders during pregnancy and postpartum, perinatal loss, infertility, eating, and exercise disorders. Go to sentimano.com for further information about the practice and services. For additional information on today's topic and guests, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fit for a Queen. And
Hashtag Fit for a Queen.
don't forget to rate us on iTunes. We can't wait for you to join us next time on Fit for a Queen.
Bye, Queens.